Yeah, I'd love to do that if we could, but I don't think they.
Nope.
That looked young. What was that? A cookie?
Buckeye. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a Buckeye, Ben Rasa. That's what. Look at this.
What is that?
Merry Christmas. You've never had a Buckeye before?
I've never heard of that in my life.
All right, so I don't know if this is the official name of them, but I've always known them as Buckeye. So I apologize to all my PA Penn State folks out there. This is nothing subtle or anything along those lines. It is a ball of peanut butter that is then coated and dipped in chocolate.
I'm aware of that concept, and I think I've certainly had those. I've never heard them called a Buckeye though.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Chat, let us know if that's real. I think that might be.
Oh, come on. You think I'm fooling you right from the jump here?
I never heard that. In New York, we don't have that Buckeye.
I'm from New York and I call it a Buckeye. Get out of here.
Fine.
I'm from City Island, all right? Doesn't get more New York than that.
That is pretty New York. Good seafood. Anyway, go
Let's
ahead.
Jump into it. What?
No, I checked to the razor.
Sorry.
This is your time. Thursday night football. Last one of the year. This is it.
I know.
Last Thursday night football game of the year. And it's Festivus.
Amazing.
Happy Festivus, everyone.
Air your grievances. If you have them, now's the time to air them, right? Is essentially what we're looking at here. Look, I think, honestly, tonight's going to be very fascinating to look at how people play this game with a couple of offenses we've seen put up some points. We also have to deal with some injury stuff. COVID as well. The whole left side of the line for the Titans is now out with COVID protocol. This is like a living, breathing organism for the NFL. Imagine how crazy it is in the NBA, where at least we only have a couple of days a week here with the NFL. All things look intact. So why don't you kick things off for us? What are you looking at? Maybe it's a big swing at the fences tonight. Maybe it's just coming in hot. You set the tone for us, Ben Rasa.
Yeah, so I think this is obviously a pretty entertaining game. You've got two teams that, at times have looked dominant. At other times have looked maybe they're not even going to make the playoffs. And that's the nature of the NFL here. And it's obviously just a matchup we don't get, super often in terms of these teams have no allegiances division-wise or anything like that. The thing I was initially drawn to, I do lean San Francisco. We'll get that out of the way here. Not a strong take. I do have a pretty strong take on the over, though. This line is moving around a little. I see 44.5 on my screen. I don't mind going over that, obviously. I do think, but I might even explore, maybe some type of... What?
That was me, sorry.
No problem. I was saying I might maybe go to an alternative line here or there. If you're doing same game parlays, and certainly we're going to talk about that throughout the show, I don't even mind adding a couple points to that. I think this is a pretty good situation for both offenses. You mentioned Tennessee's got some issues. That's probably why I lean San Francisco, but I still think both teams are going to put up a healthy amount of points tonight.
Yeah, I love that, especially because it's kind of contrary, right, to what we've seen for Thursday night football, especially when you have at least one of the offenses coming in and being hot, having a lot of talent, whatever the case may be, scoring a lot of points, and then Thursday night being this great equalizer. And I think we're past that. Honestly, you and I talked about that this morning on the breakfast menu. I think that we're past that, the final two games or so for Thursday night football, which goes into where, I've always been all season, you and I and others here from the Bloomfields to beyond on the chat, on the first half unders, we've been slamming those. Now, to be fair, we've been slamming those at 24.5, given that extra field goal over 21. In this case, we've been able to take, 21.5 is the actual number. So I don't have a problem going over even that. I think it's a lower number as a result of what we've seen week in and week out. So that's my favorite play on there. And I was tempted to I was trying to figure out a nice halftime, full-time in this as well. But I don't know who wins the first half. I'm leaning Niners all the way with you. I love the Niners to win this game, but I'm not confident enough to say that on the road they're going to open up and dominate and halftime, full-time this. So I was a little hesitant to go halftime, full-time Niners. I did see, though, Titans Niners, and I think, all right, at least I could subscribe and kind of get behind that. But the majority of my play, the biggest play for me tonight is going to be over that first half, 21.5. And I might sprinkle Titans Niners halftime, full time.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that you'll have opportunities live too. Even on that first drive, there is a punt. You will get that probably to 20.5. And that is, there's a lot of ways in the first half. It lands on 21 on the dot. So you can do some things about it. There are some flexible options, but I'm more than content having any position on the over in this game, however you want to structure it. Even if you want to go to a team total, I think you could do that with San Francisco in particular. I look at them and they're just a team that I think is going to be able to move the ball. They've got obviously a lot of teams this time of the year. No one's healthy at this point, but I feel like San Francisco is actually on the upswing for the most part. They were missing guys like Debo and Kittle for portions. And now for the most part, they're pretty intact. And you can look over 23.5 points for San Francisco tonight at -115. I feel really good about that. I think they are very, very live to put up certainly north of 23.5, but even push into the 30s. Like if you want to go over 29.5 at +220, I don't think that that's crazy at all. Even if you think they land on 31, potentially you get +260 for that. There are options for San Francisco because I think they vastly outweigh the weapons that the Titans defense will be able to deploy.
Yeah, that's a great angle now to look at kind of some team totals here. And especially if you like the over, we like points. I think that's kind of the theme of this all here. And a reminder, of course, you're hanging with us, hit that thumbs up button. We see you already in there. Kick had a nice little play last night. I think everybody on Odd Shopper, at least, as you should be going each and every day for everything, was riding that Okiki prop. So nice to see some heads cash in on that. Leave us your lock it up. We have Thursday night football. We have some bowls. We have the NBA, which is an ever ongoing struggle to figure out who's playing and not. Anything you have over the weekend, 2 Christmas Day games. So we always ask and invite you to lock it up in case we put together a public parlay at the end of the show. Tweet it out. We want to make sure that we have all your plays in there. I'm also thinking, as well as what you laid out with team totals, if there was anything else in the game before we get into some player stuff and even look at maybe player props or even building a same game parlay, is there anything else that, for example, could this game, well, I guess it really couldn't go over. I don't want to mess with anything that counters our play here because I'm always on with you. I think the over first half and the actual total itself. Over 5 touchdowns is -105. You have a couple of these TD props, right? Some of them are ridiculous. I don't even know how much data there's even behind these. But first touchdown for yards, field goal props, though, is where I think we can have some fun here. First field goal made, the first stuff is always crazy, right? Because you're banking on drives and stuff. But if you could get longest field goal, or if you could just get something on a field goal standpoint, that's where I feel like the Titans are really in play here, where they do have the ability to move the ball. I just don't think they can convert. And that's just a long way around. Sorry, I was trying to get to the prop itself. That's just a long way around looking at a couple of field goal props that I would specifically with the Titans. Not the Niners. I'm not messing with that, but just on the Titans side.
Yeah, I mean, field goal props are something I do very occasionally. It's almost always because of a weather situation. So I have no takes on that. I'll just say this. If you're going to do something with field goal props, the things you need to check on are A, what is the weather, and B, what is the tendency of the coach? So like take the Chargers, for example. There's been ample times where if you had a field goal prop, you just didn't get your opportunity because their coach goes for it all the time. So you want to make sure that the team doesn't go for it abnormal amounts and that the weather doesn't prevent any of the kicks, because all you're asking for in those situations, Eitan, I think, is just a couple chances. You just want those opportunities for your kicker.
So real quick, Dan mentioned about dropping it 120 to have the push and play at 21. And nothing is ever a constant, right? Things live and breathe and you kind of take things as they are. But I'm tempted to actually push it the other way and say I might go over 23 at this point, even 23.5, knowing where we've been at that key 24 going under that. Like if you're over 21.5, which I think we both are here, I'm pretty emphatic. Like I think you can get 24 to 27 points in this first half with both of these teams. So I get it. And you answered it. There's definitely the value in the safe play in that to drop it with a push. And to be fair, minus 110 is going to be over 22 or 22 and a half. You're not really changing much. But if I wanted to even have the over 24 to be aggressive, I would stay at 23 and a half. But I would also think about that. As much as you can save a dime or save some value, save the play, that's what I meant to say, by dropping it 10 cents. You could also push it over 23 and a half, stay under that 24, and now get plus 120 back. So it's one of the other ways in which you can really angle that.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that first of all, you have to see what your book offers. Not every book gives you sliders both directions. The key with buying points and anything like that is you just have to check out the value. Most of the time, a large majority of the time, they're raking you over the coals. You're paying an exorbitant amount for the half point, and it's just simply not worth it. I know it feels better because your chances of winning the bet go up, but the return on the bet doesn't pay it off, and vice versa. If you're getting plus money, but you've moved it through key numbers and stuff, that's a terrible idea long term. But sometimes in the examples, you say, okay, I'm only paying, say, 10 cents. Or something like that. I'm reducing my VIG. I'm getting plus money. I don't think that the chances of the bet losing on 22 or 23 are any different. If they score 17 points in the first half, you lose whether you have 21 and a half, 22 and a half, 23 and a half. The only time you get into trouble is if it lands between those numbers where you would have won your bet. And now because you were aggressive, you lost your bet. So just things to keep in mind. That's all a math problem though.
Yeah, exactly. And you just bounce around, you determine what, jumps out at you. Speaking of which, I'm curious to see what's jumped out at you from a player standpoint. Odd Shopper is where we're going. We have video up there, Ben, Lofty, myself. We have tons of content that's constantly popping up. Betting you with Ben and Matt. This is the time to get into bowl season. So you have a ton of on-demand content. You also have our live shows that we're doing 2 to 3 times a week with Ben and Pete the third for the NFL season on Sundays. So everything. And you should look, you're following us on Twitter. I'm constantly posting these. I put one up at 2:30 in the morning because I'm dealing with insomnia. I'm riding that 5-leg down to 4 because Grayson Allen was voided. But that was the 5-leg prop party parlay, Ben, that I just plugged and played from yesterday. And now 4 of the 5 legs can hit. All I need is Debo to go over 43 and a half receiving yards.
Well, let's start there. That's really where we're at here. Debo Samuel, obviously a extremely polarizing player right now because they are utilizing him. I don't know who we'd really relate it to. I guess Cordero Patterson, but not really. I mean, Debo Samuel has had 5 or more rushing attempts in 5 straight games. And some of those have resulted in less targets for him, but this is still a guy early in the season. He was averaging basically 10 targets a game through the first 9 weeks of the season. So he can do it all. I do think that he'll be more prevalent, certainly in the passing attack tonight. He's got a pedestrian 47 and a half. It is going up little by little. This is a spot I just recorded a video. It was at 45 and a half. So clearly the value is on the over here. You're losing value if you wait. So if you want to get on that, I think the time is now. But I guess the question to you, I know I wish we knew these things would be mind readers, is just with Elijah Mitchell out, do we expect Debo once again to have some of his touches on the ground?
Yeah, I think it's a valid point and a question, something to raise. And the biggest thing with Debo is that I think he's so isolated, right? So if you were trying to correlate Debo more on the ground, I don't think that with like Jeff Wilson getting less touches or something along those lines, I don't think it. Now in the air, yes, only because you have a George Kittle out there. And I think Kittle is going to be the bigger reason why a guy, and we'll talk about him in a minute, Ayuk and maybe anybody else you're targeting on San Francisco, Juwan Jennings, whoever it may be, you're not going to get much action because Kittle is now back. But Debo, I feel like, stands on his own. Like Debo is Cooper Kupp. Debo is Justin Jefferson. Debo is a guy like he can have as many targets, he can have as many touches, and I don't think it impacts anybody else. So that's why I think absolutely for a team that loves to run as much as they will throw, right? I mean, they're pretty even. You brought that up on the breakfast menu this morning. It's not my point. It's yours, Ben. I definitely see Debo, even if you were running a same game parlay and you wanted to take one of the lower sliders on rushing yards for Debo and combine that with his typical, what we have on Awesemo on Odd Shopper receiving yards, I love that because he's definitely going to have the ball in his hands a lot more than just catching it tonight.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a little concern just because obviously anytime he's getting the ball on the ground, he can't catch the ball clearly. So you don't want to minimize his opportunities if you're banking on those receiving yards. But I still think this is a guy more often than not, we're going to see play a bigger role. And even last week against Atlanta, they were very comfortably ahead. He still had, he got back a little. He had 5 targets. He had 4 catches for 60 yards. We've highlighted all year his yards after catch has been absolutely ridiculous. So this is someone that can get him the ball in space. He makes it happen. And I feel pretty good about him tonight. I don't have a ton else to say. George Kittle's amazing, going to be a showdown priority. I don't love the props, though. They've obviously adjusted for how good he is. 73.5 receiving yards feels about right. 5.5 receptions, juice to the over. Not going to lay minus 140 on something like that. So I don't have a ton else from San Francisco. I do think they will move the ball pretty effectively tonight.
It's not plus 1,000. I get it. And it's not something that, we've mined here for you by all means at, plus 2,000 same game parlay, 16 different legs. But Jeff Wilson had even money to score a touchdown tonight. Anytime touchdown, as much as they run, as down as they are without a key guy in Elijah Mitchell. I like that. I was going to say I don't have a problem with that, but no, I caught myself. I like that prop tonight. Again, if it's minus 110, minus 120, I understand why somebody wants to, but it's a straight get plus money back, even return on this bet for the guy who's dealing with a lot of circumstances around him that I think can help. So I would definitely take a shot at Jeff Wilson, even money for an anytime touchdown score. It's not sexy, but hey, I'm in the business of trying to win bets here, Ben.
You know what? I think you found something there. He scored against Atlanta last week. And I just look at this situation. I mean, the question I always ask myself with a guy like this is, okay, if the Niners are on the 10-yard line and they throw a fade to Kittle and he gets tackled and they throw that flag and now it's 1st and goal on the 1-yard line, what happens? What happens? Is it Jeff Wilson time? Is it Kyle Juszczyk time? Is it Deebo Samuel time? I don't think you need that. That's the sole way he can score. But when I target running backs like this, I want to know that I think I have the opportunities for those basically quote unquote, give me goal line carries. And I think that Jeff Wilson, of the guys I just named, is probably the most likely ball carrier in that situation.
So let's look at this. 2 ways to examine this, because I love Juszczyk. I love
that
him.
Guy.
But look, he's plus 500. He's going to be a little higher on the return because you need something like that to happen. But look, from Deebo to Kittle, you've got 2 guys built in that should generate flags with fade routes on the goal line. So it's a very likely scenario. I'm wondering if it's worth it, Ben. All right, 2 things. 1, let's start here. I wonder if it's worth it to just come out, lay a unit on Wilson and a half unit on Juszczyk anytime TD.
I mean, they're 2 totally different types of bets. I get what you're saying there. Obviously, Juszczyk is going to be, he's not going to get volume. He maybe will have a touch here and there. He's kind of a gadgety type guy, even though he's a fullback. Someone like Wilson, he's going to carry the load tonight. There's no doubt about it. He'll have ample opportunities. It's just many of his carries, of course, the TD equity on them is probably going to be close to 0 because if you get a carry on the 30-yard line, it's very hard to score, of course. You need goal line carries, red zone carries, things of that nature. And I think he's got a decent spot. And again, it's all about evaluating the odds. I think that for straight even money, and honestly, while we're having this conversation, I just looked at a book and it moved to minus 115. I think you're in the ballpark of playable for sure.
Absolutely. See, that's what we do. Kickstart went out there, put $1,000 at that book on it and moved it. Exactly. Hey, a same game parlay with the 2 individuals we just discussed bumps this up to plus 1,300.
No veto.
Really?
I'm going to stick in. I think that Jeff Wilson anytime touchdown is a play.
Okay.
I don't want anything to do with these peripheral guys. Because it's just like,
Okay.
what if Jimmy G sneaks it? Like, what if Hasty is in there? There's just a lot of unknowns when you start going down that road to me. And you're not getting a ton. You're getting plus money, of course. But Jeff Wilson is the lead back tonight. Say what you want about Debo, see what you want about these other guys. If they win the game, San Francisco likes to run the ball. He's going to have chances.
So Kittle's back, Debo's back. I want to fade everything with Brandon Ayuk, right? I mean, that's the plan tonight.
I think so. I mean, Brandon Ayuk, at times it's been a weird season for him. The very beginning of the season, it was like, oh my God, Brandon Ayuk is not even playing. Worked himself into a really solid role in the second half of the season. Was non-existent against Atlanta. He just had one catch. It was for 36 yards. I just worry about him in terms of target share against Kittle and Debo in an offense that wants to run the ball. They've been better when they're playing from ahead. The volume is not going to be there for Jimmy G. I don't know how much we can get from him, and I just want to kind of point that out. Here's Jimmy G's passing attempts over the last 5 weeks. 22 in a 20-point win, 26 in an 8-point win, 30 in a loss, 41 in an overtime win, and 23 last week. So when they're winning these games, Jimmy G's only throwing the ball 20 to 25 times. That's just not that many opportunities for a guy like Ayuk.
No. And again, if you're just looking at his straight up play, if you're trying to build something in a same game parlay, you're going to have the opportunity to play it straight or just to work with a slider here on Ayuk. And I definitely think it's going to be hard for Garoppolo to feed 3 mouths tonight. And clearly it's going to be Ayuk as the odd man out. And we also talked about carries, Jeff Wilson. They're not going to stop running the football just because Mitchell is out. Now, we didn't talk much about the Titans, which makes me believe, at least think, that you're not really playing much on the Titans. Because if one thing, like if you were fading the Titans hard, I feel like you would have brought up somebody by now.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say there. It's because the way that they're constructed, it doesn't lend. First of all, there's 2 parts. One, the Titans have a lot of unknowns and the books are holding off on a lot of their props. That's the reality of the world we're living in right now in the prop world. You don't have as many options on the Tennessee side right now. So it's hard to say, oh, I love Julio Jones under, because I can't find numbers at most of the books. And that's just something that we have to deal with. But what I do know about the Titans, you got 3 backs right now, and Foreman and Hilliard and McNichols. It's very hard to decipher who's going to get what type of opportunity, who's going to be the pass catching back, who's going to be the lead back if they're winning. And that just, for me, is mostly stay away situations. Not to mention, Eitan, you already brought up, they're missing one side of their line. That can't be good for the rushing attack.
Not at all. Not at all. I wonder, that's the thing with Tannehill. Is it even worth it at this point to look at a couple of his passing yard props? Problem, though, is that we both like the over. Neither one of us are really high on the Titans to provide much on that over, which could easily put Ryan Tannehill now in some pretty big passing moments where I don't want to tempt fate and fade and go under all of his passing yards. Like I could easily see him throwing for 250 to 300 yards because they're down 14 to 17 points and they have no choice at that point. Not that Deontay Foreman's, breaking down doors by any means, but to move away from the run, I don't think it's going to take a ton for the Titans.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, clearly the Titans, like a lot of teams, this late in the year, you should have an identity, and they haven't been able to score much and they haven't looked good, but it seems like they want to still. There is no Derrick Henry anymore, but you could still have an ample rushing attack with 3 guys. And of course, AJ Brown is someone that, of course, they want to get out there. And we'll see. Again, that's an unknown for tonight. I don't know if we're going to see him. It's murky at best. This is the kind of stuff we need to know before we take positions. And, for a lot of our viewers play DFS, they know this. You can build a showdown team, and then we get word that, oh, this guy's ruled in. What do? You delete your team and you start again. When you make a bet, it's over. You're locked in. So I think unless you have an angle where you're saying, I'm going to secure value right now, and that happens all the time, I would wait on some of these Titans props because I don't think we have a clarification on what we're going to see tonight.
That's a great point. And you don't have to play right now. You don't have to jump in right this second and lock a bet up. If you're a little hesitant because of the COVID world that we're doing and everything, then it totally makes sense. I was looking to see if there was a longest, because I do like longest completion because I do think both of these guys have guys that they're throwing to on either side that have the capability, big play guys that can get downfield over 20, 25 yards. You're not going to get much break at all on the passing props. But as far as, the longest reception, Deebo Samuel, Ben Rasa, is only at 20.5. Juwan Jennings is only at 14.5. And I feel like both of these guys are prime for even Deebo, who's going to get volume, but Jennings to a lesser extent, really only need one grab to go over these numbers, each of them.
Yeah, I like the Deebo one because again, we've talked about this guy, he gets the ball and it's just, that's why they're giving him the ball in the backfield. His yards after catch is ridiculous. So I don't mind that. Jennings is kind of a weird one because it's always interesting when you see guys where their receiving yards prop is very close to their longest receptions prop. It just speaks to the limited opportunities. A guy like Juwan Jennings, his total receiving yards prop is 21.5. His longest receptions prop is 14.5. So it's like, if he clears 14.5, I would rather just bet over 21.5 and hope he has one more catch, or he has like a catch that's longer than 21.5 and I get it all in one gain. I think that's a pretty easy decision for me, to be honest. Just give me over 21.5 if I had to do it.
All right, let's look at anything that you've seen from Odd Shopper. Our parlay builder is on fire over the past couple of days. Not just us here. I know Lofty's hit a couple. And again, the beauty of the parlay builder is that you don't have to play right what everything has in front of you.
No.
You can mix and match. If you like one from the 10X, you like one from the Chalk Eater, you like one from the Dog Days, you want to make your own, go ahead. Nobody's stopping you by any means. We've just made it significantly easier. And I told you that the prop party from yesterday, from Wednesday, is still live because you can cross through sports and get a 4 or 5 play ticket from the NBA and NFL. So we've done a lot based off of our own projections and based off of our own Odd Shopper, of course, the free tool, Ben, that we've been using as far as a guide, if you will. But the parlay builder tonight, now we're stepping it up.
Oh, this has just been a great addition. It's a ton of fun. And like I said, for people, first of all, if you're new to the stream, and I know a lot of people are just coming in for the first time, welcome. If you can hit that like button, it appreciates it. And if this is kind of content you're having fun here, hit that subscribe button. Just hang out with us, be part of the team. We have a ton of content here at Awesemo Odds. But this parlay builder, as you can see, you kind of find your groove, whether you're looking for some heavy favorites that we feel confident are going to win the games, or you're looking for some plus money guys to string together and get a payout. This Dog Days parlay is up to 37-1. Obviously low probability of hitting, but when you do hit it, could pay for a month's worth of parlay props like that. So that's the fun of that, the 10X. And as you mentioned, all the time when our premium Discord, we get questions about like, hey, I'm looking at your 10X parlay. I love 4 of them. I'm not sure about the 5th. No problem. Leave that one off, substitute another one in, make your own. Like this is just presenting you the projections that Alex and the whole team have developed and giving you the edges. You can still craft your favorite bets. You can find more risk. You want to add another one in, less risk, leave one off. That's the beauty of it.
I love this thing, man. Honestly, I'm addicted to it. Not betting. I'm addicted to the prop party part. I want to make sure that I just, so somebody doesn't clip this audio and says, you got Shander on here, he's got a problem. No, I'm saying that if you already know I do, but it's not betting. It's just fun. Creating witchcraft. That's my problem.
Again, the amount of options that you have this day and age with these books, it takes, and I did a video on this. You've done one on same game parlays. You can check those out at this very channel. This saves so much time because it eliminates so many props that you probably shouldn't be looking at. And it really hones in on the ones that you probably should devote your time to. I know with college football, bowl season, college basketball in full swing, I don't have time to go through 100 props a day. So I go to Odd Shopper, it does the work for me, and boom, I'm able to craft my parlays infinitely easier and more effectively with this tool.
I have 3 separate pieces of witchcraft to create my stew before we get out of here, Ben Rasa. But I know that there's a lot of other things happening. We're going to lock it up as we always do.
Yes.
Bowl stuff going on. And look, you and Matt, we continue to tell people if you're hanging out here, this is far from the only thing that we're doing on the Awesemo Odds channel. We have content on demand for you, from college to the pros to the NFL bets, just to how to bet and why to bet something specific, how to build the parlays, as Ben mentioned. So he and Matt have Betting You every Wednesday where you get your podcast, hoops to basketball. You're going to be totally fully prepared. Bowl season is going on. I'd strongly recommend that if you haven't heard their full comprehensive breakdown, you go ahead and do that. But it is our show, and we're not going to be back until after Christmas. There's a lot of college on there. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 games, maybe. I saw North Texas, Miami, over 56.5 from Greg SJ1. He's locking that up in the MAC.
There are a lot of games. That one is going to be, that's one tip in a couple
Miami
hours. Miami of Ohio, just awful. What an awful game. It should be pure carnage on the screen. I'm excited to see that one. I'm going to point out the game tomorrow for us real quick if I can. We've got Memphis. They're going to Hawaii. Enjoy themselves down there. They're taking on Hawaii. They're up to an 8.5-point favorite. I have them at -5. I feel fantastic about that. I would still lay the points at 8.5. I feel fine about that. Hawaii's program is an absolute mess. They've lost their quarterback. They've lost their running back. There are guys all over the transfer portal. Their coaching staff and the team are not getting along. I think they have absolutely nothing going on. The only positive is they're at home. Other than that, they are just a walking mess right now. Memphis is down Calvin Austin, but other than that, they are intact. The spread has ballooned 4 or 5 points. I still like it. Anything inside 10.
Look, Kickstart asking if we're going to spend Christmas with our odds family. I'm more than happy to spend it with you and Kick and Greg and everybody else, as opposed to dealing with the hours of what I'm with. So yes, I'm here.
Well, we're going to have plenty of content. Don't worry. It's the best NBA day of the year and leads into the best bowl week of the year, where we've got the playoff games. We've got the New Year's. We're going to have you covered. There is no doubt about it. That is, again, why you want to subscribe to the channel, because these videos will be dropping all week. It's a great opportunity to have some fun and, more importantly, make a little money for the festivities.
Absolutely, man. No, you're right there. Just trying to look at everything with Christmas Day. It's a shame we can't even give anything on the NBA, because God knows who's even going to be out there at that point.
We're in a holding pattern there. That's tough, but yep.
George Mason plus 11.5 on the wood. You like that?
I don't know who they're playing, so that makes it more difficult to say. Didn't look at that college basketball game today. Let's take a quick peek and see what we can find. George Mason's playing Wisconsin. Well, it's a sub 130 total, so that helps you. They did beat Maryland early in the year. I haven't bet that. I'm probably not going to, but when you have low totals like that, that team is pretty scrappy.
All right. I'm going to give you the 3-leg same game parlay that we've just built on this show. You don't even realize we just built this on the show, but we built it on the show. You ready?
I'm ready.
Jeff Wilson, anytime touchdown scorer.
Like it.
Over 44.5 for Debo.
Like it.
That's pretty much been the staple. So Jeff Wilson, anytime, over 44.5 for Debo, under 64.5 for Brandon Ayuk.
Okay, so you've moved that up quite a bit.
And that gets me plus 425 back.
Not bad. Okay, I think we can work with that. Again, Brandon Ayuk is the swing guy for me tonight. I'm shorting him. I'm stunned. His prop is 1 yard more than Debo's. It doesn't make sense. I don't get that. I understand that Debo is being utilized in other ways. I still think that Debo has a much better chance in the receiving game than a guy like Brandon Ayuk tonight. I'll get on board with that. I'm going to throw in, if you want to get aggressive, we have one bowl game tonight that I do like. I think Florida, I would lay the points there. So if you add them in, you're really going to boost that up. Florida's a 7-point favorite. They play Central Florida. Both teams in turmoil, but Central Florida's quarterback is gone. I don't like their coaching staff to begin with. Florida's got issues, but at the same time, the depth and the talent advantage goes to them. Games in Florida, both teams near home, no advantage there. Give me the Gators, pretty sizable tonight if you want to get aggressive and cross sports.
I need one more piece of aggression from you before we get out of here, because I have one, and then I don't even know what you would call the last one. It's beyond, it's belligerent. It's beyond aggressive. It's downright belligerent. Now, this is a little aggressive. Okay, $25 bet's going to get you $625 net. All right, so that's minus what you put in. 25 to win $650 total. Over 49.5 for Debo.
Okay.
But again, I think we're both high on Debo having a big night in the air.
We have him projected near 60 yards as a site, and I'm in line with that.
I still think we can hit Brandon Ayuk at 3+ receptions, and he's nowhere near going over his receiving yards. So there's a little bit of a reach here. I get it. But look, this is the bare minimum you can get. Even on Awesemo, as volatile as he's been, we have him projected for just over 3 receptions. Again, those could be wide receiver screens. They could be quick ones. I'm not looking at that correlating necessarily to his passing yards. Over 49.5 Debo, 3+ Ayuk. Now, this is where we get a little tricky. Over 2.5 total touchdowns for the Niners.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Over 1.5 touchdowns for the Titans.
So this is just a different way of constructing the over, but yes. Okay.
And here you go. Because you knew there would have to be something in there that's going to make your eyebrows go,
because right
wow.
now you haven't done anything crazy at all.
George Kittle.
Two
or more touchdowns. Plus 2,500 on that 5-leg parlay.
I mean, it's one of these situations. The one thing I like about it is you're taking care of some of the legs simultaneously. If George Kittle scores twice, the Niners just need one more touchdown. It's going to force the Titans to throw the ball a ton. The Ayuk one, and again, when you're structuring parlays like this, you don't need to hit all your parlays. Like, there's a chance that Brandon Ayuk goes nuts, and then this parlay's got a better chance. You're going to lose your other ones we've just constructed. That's okay. I mean, if you're indifferent on a guy or you want to craft different narratives, think of it like DFS lineups. I mean, some of my lineups tonight are gonna have Titans onslaughts. Others going to be planning for a Niners shutout. They're totally conflicting ideologies, but I know that if one of them really goes off, it'll pay for the rest.
All right, one piece of witchcraft. You're going to cleanse the palate. I love using that term because we end the show with something reasonable, something logical from Ben Rasa. Now, this is like if you have a free bet, you have a $5 free bet hanging around, you've got $5. Ben, you've mentioned this. If your account is like XX $4.39, then take that $4. This is one of these plays, okay? It's plus 7,500 on the return, but crazier things have happened, all right? Three different guys, yes, here we go. Three different guys, anytime TD. Kittle, A.J. Brown, Kyle Juszczyk. There's the risk. Juszczyk, the risk, right? Well, I get it.
Well, we got to make sure A.J. Brown's good to go, but it looks like he will be. And yeah, Juszczyk is obviously the risk. Kittle should score. No, I mean, I don't really say that guy's name, but yeah. I mean.
Okay, hold on. I'm not done yet.
There's more.
There's more. But wait. Over 44.5 total points.
Well, you got 3 touchdowns right there, so you're in pretty good shape. Go ahead.
Over 49.5 Deebo Samuel receiving yards.
You really need Deebo tonight. Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
I was just say, if it was me, I would sub out Kittle for Deebo and just fully correlate it. Because if he has over 49.5, he's probably got a decent opportunity to score. He could score on the ground, and it makes it a little more correlated. You may sacrifice some of the upside, but you're still going to get a huge payoff if this ever happens.
Love it. All right, man. The fact that you didn't shoot it down and just have your hand over your face.
Spirit. It's a good time to take some risks, have some fun with these games. There's a lot of unknowns out there. If you get a narrative right, it could be a big payoff.
All right, brother, take us home. Give us something. You want to lock it up. You want to look at Saturday. You want to look at Sunday. You want to look at the first leg of the championship with Bama still laying 13.5. Whatever you want, it's your world.
No, I'm gonna stick with what we've talked about a little bit here. I think that in this game tonight, you're gonna see some points, and in the bowl game tonight, the University of Florida, which is now ticked to 6.5. This is the time. If you want to bet that game, Florida minus 6.5. That's the number I've been looking for and waiting for, and have found. Both teams, a lot of question marks. Florida's coach was fired. They've brought in Louisiana Lafayette's coaching staff. Emory Jones, their quarterback, has transferred, but he's playing in the game, so he will be there tonight. He has the backfield to himself. He's a very mobile guy. He's going to cause a lot of problems for Central Florida. Give me the Gators for my lock it up tonight.
I'll tell you, man. Gators laying 6.5, Niners laying 3, plus 257.
Very on board with that. Little 2-teamer.
Let's do it. All right, hit that thumbs up. We appreciate a bunch of people popping in late. Sorry, we've got a jet, but here's the good news. Ben and Pete are going to be back Sunday morning. There's going to be a ton of NFL stuff going on for the slate. But really, Monday is when we'll look at everything now. Without Thursday Night Football, we'll have a Monday night game and a ton into the playoff push. College, we have you covered. Every single thing you need on demand, live, right here. So please make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a thing. Ben, Merry Christmas. Mike, Merry Christmas. And everybody else out there, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Holidays.
Yes, go Birds. Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever gift-giving holiday you celebrate in December, enjoy it.